Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. And we're live. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited. This is like two different topics colliding. And our guest today is a marketing leader, a rising star of the marketing world. And that is, in my opinion, and many other people, literally on a fast pace to the top. And the current position actually has her at the forefront of conversational marketing. And we're going to get into that. We're going to smash myths around that. Now, she balances all of this somehow with being a mother and also a self-proclaimed foodie, the VP of marketing at qualified.com, Maura Rivera. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for the intro, Casey.
I'm
excited to be here. I'm usually on the other side of these podcast interviews, interviewing customers and leaders. So it's kind of fun to be on the flip side.
Totally. And I know I was on your show and you did a fantastic job, and the blog post afterward had videos mixed in with words, and I hadn't seen that before, and it's fantastic. So we'll probably put a link of that into the show notes. But this is your time to shine. And
let's do it.
And the theme for today is there's two themes colliding, really. And it's the first time this is happening on this show. Which is why I'm so stoked. This is first and foremost, our marketing leadership series, where we're talking to VPs and CMOs of marketing, understanding how they approach things, how they understand, how does tech fit into all this, and how do you do strategy and understand your customers. So we're going to pick your brain on that. But the other theme that's colliding in here is conversational marketing. It's something that I care about. I know you care a lot about, and you're very experienced in and knowledgeable in. So we're going to learn a lot from you today. So it's these two things just running into each other, like two planets colliding. So I want to pass you this. It's kind of heavy, but here you go. That's Thor's hammer. So go ahead and take that. You got it? All right. Smash for me some kind of marketing myth, misconception, bogus strategy. It just drives you crazy.
Yeah. I mean, something that we talk a lot about here at Qualified is this myth that conversational marketing is all about bots. It's all about chatbots and bots and automating everything. And while that's a huge part of a conversational marketing strategy, how are you having bots kind of interact with people on your website? It's so much more than that. And so what I see conversational marketing as is, how do you have conversations, real-time conversations, contextual conversations, personalized conversations with the most important website visitors and convert them? And how do you connect the most important people with your live human sales reps to really bridge that gap and kind of move them through the sales cycle? And then you can use bots and kind of chat bots beyond that to help you automate the process, collect leads, schedule meetings, further qualify people if you want to ask them a few additional questions. But conversational marketing is such a new space, and it's a new way of selling. And even I'll talk to some friends where I say, I work for Qualified, we do conversational marketing, and they say, oh, like bots on your website. And
right.
It's this myth that we want to tell people that's part of it, that's an ingredient, but there are other parts of the puzzle, other pieces of the puzzle that really make a strategic, thorough conversational marketing strategy. So bots are great. There's a time and a place for them, but you also want to have those real human conversations with your website visitors when it warrants it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of, there's all these sort of like, you see the fun features that show up out there, and then you're thinking, oh, that'd be cool. I could just have a bot that just, I don't know, does all the work for me, and then I could just go on vacation and not have to worry about it. But it's not really the case. Like, it's not, bots don't just magically do everything for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a time and a place. And I also think there's this kind of stigma out there around bots. There was this surge of bots a few years ago for support bots or sales bots on the website. And I think some people can dismiss them sometimes. So when you're building out a conversational marketing platform, say, how can I leverage bots to scale and automate? But then when is it a right time to route a website visitor to a real human?
Right.
And I think it's kind of the finally finding the right medley of humans and bots. We like to say here that salespeople can't scale, but bots can't sell. So how do you marry those in a way that works for your business and is going to move the needle on pipeline? And every customer is different, right? So some people take a bots first approach and then they bring in the salespeople later to use a conversational marketing platform. And we see other customers who are the opposite. They say, hey, we want to really focus on our human-led kind of sales approach and then use bots to kind of catch the rest. But it's the myth that we're like super passionate about smashing is bots are great, but conversational marketing is more than just that. And there's a really human element to it as well. Because at the end of the day, people want to talk to people, right?
I think one of the things you said that was really so telling with that, and I was just chatting with some people about ABM, and sometimes ABM has sort of been described as like everything, right? And if it's everything, then it's not really anything. And so because of that, it's like, the definition gets all wonky. But in this case, conversational marketing, I love you were saying, it's just real-time conversations with the most important people. Like it's simple, right? That's not overcomplicated. But if that's really what it is, then you're right. A bot's not, like you said, a bot can't sell and sales can't scale, right? So the human are important, but they're not infinite. And the bot, it has its role, but it's all in the right. So I think just like the themes are converging here today. It's also like, those two things, the idea of bot and properly placed human all at the right time. That's really what we're talking about.
Yep. And you have to be thoughtful about it. And then when you find that right balance, it's so powerful. But I think a lot of times with conversational marketing, people think it's just bots or they don't know where to start or a little bit of both. So because it's this new way of selling, we're trying to help educate people on the power of it and then steer them in the right direction for like, okay, what makes sense for your business? What's the right balance of bots and humans that works kind of for your company's size, your sales cycle, whatever it may be.
What's your take? Like if someone is like, why should I care about this thing? Like, is this just another fangled technology? Is this just a passing fad? I mean, we're great at fads here in the marketing world.
I remember you saying the biggest trend in marketing right now is trends.
Yeah, right?
I remember you saying that. What's my take on conversational marketing, kind of the power of it? I think people should care because it's really going to disrupt kind of the B2B sales and marketing model. And I mean, I'm sure people say that about any new technology. So we can dive a little bit deeper into that, right? But at the end of the day, B2B sales and marketing, it's been done the same way for a decade. Marketers spend all this time, all this money driving people to one place, which is their website. As a marketing team, it's our most prized possession. We're always thinking about how do we get people there? What do they read and consume once they get there? What's the content? What's the messaging? What are the videos? Whatever it may be. And then when people are ready to buy, they have to really jump through hoops to talk to sales, right? They fill out a form. The form says, thanks, we'll get back to you later.
Sometimes it has like 12 fields on it.
Lots of fields. As you know, my Pardot expert. And then the person moves on with their day and they move on to the other parts of their day job, or even worse, they move on to your competitor's site. They start saying, those guys are going to get back to me. In the meantime, let's see what's happening with company XYZ.
Yeah.
And so there's this kind of, it's the way marketing's been done for a long time. When I was at Salesforce, that's the way it's done. I've been at other B2B companies, that's the way it's been done. And as marketers, it's kind of frustrating, right? Because you're spending all your time and energy getting people to your site.
Right.
There, and you send them away.
Right.
Sales.
You take a message.
You get a voicemail.
Yeah.
And who leaves voicemails these days? So as a sales team, it's also frustrating because then they have this lead queue and they're chasing after them. They're hitting the phones. They're blasting out emails. And it's just not as effective as it could be for the marketing and sales team. Here we like to call it the last mile problem. Adam Blitzer, the founder of Pardot, actually said that, you guys are dealing with the last mile problem. Marketers are getting all of these eyeballs to their website, all these qualified buyers, and then you can't get them across the finish line and into a sales cycle. And so for marketing, that's kind of frustrating. For sales, it's kind of frustrating because they have these leads at their fingertips, but they can't get in touch with them because the timing's wrong or, they can't connect with them at the moment. And then for the customer, for the buyer, it's frustrating. Like,
Right.
why does this take so long? I have these B2C consumer experiences where I go to Amazon, I order my groceries, they're there in an hour. I go to
Seriously.
Spotify, I play the new Taylor Swift album. I go to Netflix, I watch whatever's new. It's there on my screen in a second. So why is this B2B buying experience so slow? That was a really long-winded answer to say
No,
the reason
yeah.
why people should be excited about this is like it's going to totally condense that process. It's going to make the marketing to sales handoff immediate. Why not have a sales conversation with a qualified person the second they're on your site? Why not transform your website into a Zoom meeting?
Right.
And I are on one right now. Like, why can't you have that with your qualified buyers on your site, and move them through the sales cycle faster? So
Right.
I think that another myth that you and I haven't talked about,
Well,
but like,
hold on a second, because
oh yeah, yeah,
you said
go
so
go
many
on.
things there, and I was thinking, you're right. Sales spend so much of their time just chasing the
Yeah,
leads to get on the phone. Not even like all the sales probably fits into several calls. I know sometimes that gets spread over a couple months, but I mean, like sales are like human schedulers because half the
totally.
time, I mean, you get a little app sometimes to help you with that, but even still, hey, does this day work? Oh, I can't make this day. Can we move this day? And it, and just trying to get them back on the phone or back on the website.
Yeah,
You're right.
like let's
Marketing.
eliminate that. Let's make
Yeah. We spent all this time getting them there. I don't know if it was Matt Sweezy or someone who said that like all of our marketing is all about like later, like I'll get back to you marketing,
yeah,
like come to the website and then we'll get back to you.
yeah,
It's all sort of, and don't worry, we'll nurture you after we get back to you,
yeah. But
in a month.
yeah, and it's like, why can't we answer your question when you have it, on the channel that you want to have it on, which is like this live conversation.
Right.
And the stats are crazy. I mean, we talk about them all the time, but so many customers, once they fill out a form, they ghost you. They
Oh,
go
yeah.
away. They
Oh,
never
yeah.
respond. We've done that to people. I have emails in my inbox that I just delete because I'm like, never mind. I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Um, but there's some crazy stats that if you can engage somebody in the moment, they call it the 5-minute rule.
Yep.
You're 100 times more likely to make initial contact with that person versus waiting and getting back to them just an hour later. If you
Oh, so
get
true.
them within 5 minutes, and none of this is rocket science, right? Like
Yeah.
it all seems kind of obvious, but I think as B2B marketers and B2B salespeople, we're just kind of accustomed to doing things the same way. So it's really just kind of opening people's eyes to, hey, you're driving all these people here. Why not have a conversation with them once they get there? Why not answer their questions, move them through the sales cycle, and just kind of modernize the sales process?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of that kind of goes back to like doing that with humans and bots, back to kind of
Right.
the original myth, right? Do it in a way that makes sense for the business buyer.
And just because the bot's there doesn't mean they want to talk. They still want to might talk to a person. Humans can sell. But that 5-minute rule you brought up, it reminded me when I was at EF, big educational tours, teachers would fill out forms to sign their students up to do educational travel. And teachers may have like one free period and then they're back to like 7 classes worth the rest of the day. So if you can't reach them now, good luck, right? It was such an example. And I know they did a bunch of studies just like you're describing. And sure enough, the stats were in 5 minutes, if you can get them in 1 minute, if you can get them right away, it was always way, way better. And yet it falls off the side of the cliff if it's past 5 minutes, if it's past any period of time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what it could be really hard to get marketing automation to get sales' attention in the moment. It's like, okay, even if Pardot knows, okay, I'm gonna send this thing right over to sales, do a quick sync, it's near real time, great. Now it's in their queue. Are they looking at that? Is that something, or maybe they're looking at some other object or something? It's like, how do we get to their attention? And so I like how this is sort of like put in there. I know it sounds like an infomercial, but we're kind of just hashing out that, yeah, it's like all about having those real time conversations.
100%. And I think something I was going to say earlier was that like it also helps not just the marketing team care about the website. It kind of gives sales this new
Mm,
platform. It makes the marketing real estate, suddenly it's something that both marketing and sales care about, the kind of the website experience. So it
right.
opens up this new channel.
Right. Like where are they? Yeah. Well, how does that work for you? And I think you're in this awesome position to be working with a tool and marketing it and being like
Yeah.
a user and the client yourself and all those things wrapped in together. I'd love to know, like, how do you use it, and then how do you get sales involved, and how do you kind of tie those two sides together?
Yeah. Yeah. So qualified, our elevator pitch, right? We're conversational marketing. We're purpose built for Salesforce. And to your point, we're using it all day, every day. We're
Right.
drinking our own champagne, eating our own dog food, whatever phrase you like to say. But if we're not using it on our site, then that's a total miss and that's a failure, on behalf of our customers.
Right.
So we are learning a ton of stuff along the way. Every day we get in, me and our sales team, we're in the qualified application. We're keeping an eye when qualified visitors kind of are browsing our site. We have those golden pages where we know, hey, if they're on our Pardot page, if they're on our pricing page, we want to talk to them.
Right.
We're also doing ABM targeted campaigns. So we're sending people these kind of purpose-built landing pages built in Pardot.
Nice.
And then when somebody lands on the site, we route that to the right salesperson and they say, hey, company X,
Right.
Tony here, like, let's talk. So we're using it in a ton of different ways to identify when qualified people are on the site. We're using it to have conversations and not just chat. You can do phone call. I know you and I have done phone calls when I see the
Yeah.
cases on our site. You can upgrade it there. We're using it to kind of supercharge our outbound efforts. So when an outbound prospect lands on our site, it's routed to the right AE. And we're learning things along the way, like, how can that bot experience be more efficient? Where can
Right.
we insert some personalization?
How can it be more efficient? Because I think it could be the problem of like lots of noise. I know when I turned it on, instantly there's like ding, 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 and I just want to talk to everyone, but not everyone wants to talk to
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
They're not all qualified. They're not
Yeah.
all.
I think the first thing is figuring out, who do you identify as a qualified visitor, right?
Okay.
So figuring out who are the people who are the most important visitors who we want to talk to. Maybe it's somebody who's on these, we call them our golden pages, or comes from a golden campaign, where we know somebody who clicks through that campaign or is on our pricing page, we're going to
Sure.
fast track them to a human conversation. We're also qualified people who come from these ABM campaigns that we're doing. And then once we kind of have those experiences built out, a lot of it is, how do we personalize those experiences? If somebody comes from a G2 listing, how do we say, welcome from G2, let's talk? And then you can use bots to kind of help you scale the program like we talked about. So we have bots to help qualify leads. So you can ask a few questions up front, maybe company size, product interest, whatever. And if they meet certain criteria, route them to a salesperson. If we're offline after hours, you can collect leads, you can schedule meetings with our sales team.
Right.
It's pretty fun too, because we have product feedback as we go through
Yeah.
the process, which I'm sure our product team loves. But we do have things that we're learning throughout that we're said, wouldn't that be cool if we could also do this? Wouldn't that be cool if we could pull in this information from Salesforce?
Totally.
And as a marketer, I always feel the most confident marketing a product that I know and understand.
Sure.
Um, and so that also helps us think about, like, okay, what's the value that we're seeing? And
Hmm.
hopefully that's how we'll position this to future customers. So
Right.
it's a cool exercise. And there's something pretty cool about, seeing people on your site, how they're consuming your stuff, and then kind of flipping those into real meetings, real opportunities. So
For sure.
marketer, I'm kind of getting some of that sales rush that salespeople when we have those like really successful conversations. So
Oh,
it's
totally.
pretty fun.
Yeah. You know what was really interesting with the way you described the things you had learned and how to actually be efficient was that, who are the qualified visitors? And I thought, man, that's just like ABM, the work you do to identify who are your key people. Who are the
Mhm.
people you want to talk to, whether it's an account or a prospect? That
Totally.
work is doubled. That works in automation. I mean, Pardot, you need that information. ABM, you need that information. Qualified. So it's like it's not nothing new. It's not, to your point, rocket science. You still need to prioritize who you want to talk to.
Yeah, so you have to be, efficient with how you spend your time. And I think conversational marketing it's a pillar of an ABM strategy, right? You have these target accounts, you're doing all this personalized marketing, you're trying to get them over to the right account owner. So if that target account lands on your site, talk to them and have
Yeah.
the right person on your sales team talk to them, you know, um, and really just make it a continuous part of like your bigger ABM vision. I know
Right.
ABM can be overwhelming and it's not just a bunch of technology, it's a new strategy, but this is part of the strategy. How are we engaging with those people once they land on our site?
That was the first thing that you'd mentioned. And what was interesting is the last thing you'd mentioned was the bots. They weren't first. It wasn't like, okay, I have this new tool. Let's do bots first. No, get to know the customers you want to actually have humans talk to,
Mm-hmm.
personalize that experience. And then the way you said it, use bots to scale. That made so much
Totally.
sense. Yeah,
Every business is different, right? Since we're in the conversational marketing business, we want to show people the power of those human conversations. But we have some bigger companies who say like, "Hey, let's start with bots. Let's start and then let's bring in our sales team once we feel comfortable with this new platform." So
sure.
you see all shapes and sizes, but if you can make the investment as a company to connect your salespeople with your most qualified website visitors, it's gonna pan out in the long run. It's gonna help you in the long run. So that's kind of our best practice that we advise.
So ideal case is when sales is manning the chats, or how do you task that out? Who does what in your
Yeah,
in your experience? Like, who's the best
yeah.
way to do that?
Typically, inside sales teams are manning it, so
Okay.
they're in the application. They see when qualified visitors are on the site, and they can engage with them immediately. We also have some account executives who you can route conversations to an AE if one of their target accounts is on the site. But it's the sales team is the end user, which is
Yeah.
why conversational marketing is interesting, right? Because usually hire
Right.
a marketer because marketing owns the website and they want to help with that last mile problem. But then the end user is a salesperson who wants to more at bats, more conversations, whatever it may be.
Right.
Um, and so there are a ton of best practices. Like we see a lot of companies have shifts for, hey, these 8 reps are online from 8 to noon. These 8 reps are online from noon to 4, and then we have whatever schedule might work. I think you need to make sure that your reps are working it as a channel, just like they're working the phones, just like they're working email, because that's when they're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I mean, as much fun as it would be great for marketing just to play on
Mm-hmm.
chat, and I've certainly logged in there. It's always better if someone on our sales team is actually on there, because then I mean, we've had experiences even early on after having it for several months where the right salesperson's already on the phone with you, so you just hop on the Zoom or you hop on like a little video call.
Yeah,
And it's already happening. If you talk to me in marketing, I still need to connect to you with sales, and we may still have that last mile in the connection. But if I can get you right talking to sales, we don't have that.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge part of it.
What's this going to do for sales cycles? Like, is this just going to blow up sales cycles to the point where people just go on a website and they start buying? Like, here's my credit card, charge me. What's
I
going to
mean,
happen?
I think the hope is you get more pipeline and you get it more quickly. So kind of twofold. But everybody likes to buy in a different way. So it's not necessarily going to get rid of the form completely on a website. Maybe some
Right.
people still want to go down that path. But for the people who want a conversation and they want it now, which 99% of people do, it's going to give them an opportunity to move through the sales cycle faster. And
Sure.
because that person has that real time conversation on the website, they might get into a sales cycle that they might have otherwise not gotten into, meaning they might have left your site and gone on to your competitor.
Oh, totally.
So I think that's the hope, right? That salespeople are going to see more pipeline, they're going to get it more quickly. And they have, because it's integrated with Pardot, they have all of the marketing data that they need at their fingertips. So they can not chat blindly, but have these really personalized contextual conversations. They know what marketing content they've digested. They know what their prospect lead score or grade, their prospect grade is. They know kind of where they are in that marketing funnel, and then they can just create a lead immediately in Salesforce. So I think it just really streamlines that marketing to sales handoff. And marketing and sales teams are both really excited about it for different reasons.
Right. You know, huh. Okay, I know what I was gonna. I have all these thoughts going on, right? This is like really cool, cutting edge stuff.
Wheels.
You know, people watching on the video like, wow, smoke literally came out of his ears. So does this kill forms? Because I know you mentioned the forms and it's a different medium, maybe in the long run, but I don't know. There's some vendors out there that are like, kill your forms, you'll be fine. All you need is bots and they'll close your deals for you. And I'm just like, come on. Like, no one believes that.
I think it's a complementary tactic. I don't think it necessarily kills the form. You know, forms might still be appropriate if you want to download a piece of content, for instance. Forms are a quick and easy way for marketers to get all of those fields we talked about and get that information. Forms are great for event registration. There are all these use cases for
That's
forms.
a good point.
But I think it's a complementary way. You know, if somebody wants to go directly to that human conversation, this is the best way to do it. There are also some use cases where you can use conversational marketing as the next step in a form. So if somebody submits a form and they say, hey, I'm a VP of data. If that's your ideal customer, you can say that person's qualified, and you can welcome them with a message that says, don't go away, Mark, let's talk now. So you could even use it as like, instead of a form thank you page, you could greet them with a conversation and say, we're online. We don't have to get back to you later. Let's have that conversation immediately. So there are definitely different opinions out there. I think I see it as something that's complementary and another avenue for a buyer to get in touch with a sales team. And vice versa. Either party can kind of initiate that conversation. It goes two ways. So that's kind of my viewpoint.
Yeah, kind of meet them where they're at, you know. What's that?
What do you think about it, having used it on the Cheshire site? Like, do you guys see it as replacing the form, or what has that experience been like?
Yeah, I think the way that, you mentioned earlier, it's how people buy different ways, and then we don't have one persona. We don't have one type of buyer. It'd be kind of interesting if we did. We just nail it and then go on vacation.
Right.
But we have a couple different, one person wants the comparison chart. One person wants to talk to someone right away. And so you're right. Not everyone wants to chat either. It's not like everyone wants to chat. Some people don't. And, but they have the option.
Some people want to get on a phone call. So it's, it's also about more than just chat. It's about, let's have that phone call right on the website as well.
I don't want to type all this stuff. I want to chat, or I don't want to talk to anybody, but I want your content. So the complimentary made sense as soon as you talked about how the instant response to a form is completed. Now you've received data. The data now says this person's a VP of marketing. You're trying to talk to these people, and they can instantly cue in there like a real human saying, hey, I'm here, if you have any questions. Otherwise we can schedule some time, or at least that instant response. That makes sense, as opposed to, that sort of blanket statement of kill all your forms, like that's going to do anything. And then those same type of thought leaders literally have a form on their homepage. So, it's kind of like,
it's a balance, right?
Yeah. Come on. Let people shop the way they want. Let people, get the information the way they want. What are you going to register for webinar and chat? I mean, you could, but what's easier for someone? And also there's a reason we don't tell people our phone number right away. Maybe we don't want a phone call. So if you're early in the sales cycle and you just want to get into a nurture, right? If you don't necessarily want to do the chat, but let people do whatever they need to do.
But if you're ready for a sales conversation now, then conversational marketing's perfect for that. Or maybe
exactly.
You don't know they're ready for the conversation, but the salesperson thinks they are because they're a target account or something. The sales rep can initiate it. So I think it's all, you don't need to turn your marketing processes upside down. It's open this up as another channel to talk to people, to convert people, and take advantage of your website, right? You have all these people on it, get the most out of that. So that's I think it's a balance.
That makes sense. I think, the best way I've heard ABM described is don't throw everything you're doing out the door, add this as a layer on top of it. That was
Totally.
Nate Skinner from Pardot. And he was like, look, it doesn't mean
Yes,
you just
Nate.
stop doing everything else. You just add another layer of personalization on
This
top of
too.
it. Yeah.
Make
Do
it
this too.
even more effective. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, oh, we're gonna kill our forms. No, do the marketing, do the nurturing, do the things, and then the people.
You can start small, right?
Oh
Figure
yeah.
out like, hey, let's qualify like a smaller group of people and let's see how that works. And then let's
Right.
cast a wider net for who we consider qualified. Or then let's turn on bots and help us scale. So it doesn't need to be this scary thing. You
Right.
can kind of do a phased approach for it because I think people get scared of new things. They get, it's intimidating or daunting, but we're saying start small, then expand your program, figure out what works, change those experiences, pull those levers, and kind of find out what strategy works for you.
Yeah. And I think I've also seen the opposite too with sales where they're all about getting in there, but to keep adoption going, we got to make sure we don't allow them to get distracted with all these unqualified comments. You still need
Mm-hmm.
to
Or else it
control
won't work,
and
right?
optimize. Yeah. Because if they get enough people that are sort of ghosting on them, they won't necessarily reach out to that qualified person that really wants to talk. So it's like that balance of, you can chat with anyone on your website, but really you need to have the discipline to focus on your top customers.
Yeah, you have to actually Nate Pardot, Nate Skinner, he was my boss at a former company, and he used
No
to say,
kidding.
yeah, so I worked for him for years. And he used to say, you have to ruthlessly prioritize because
Oh,
if you're trying to do everything, you won't do anything. Right. And I mean, that holds true with just your day to day. Like, what am I focusing on? What am I focusing on? But it also rings true for like, what's your qualification engine? Who are we going to prioritize and focus on? Because if we try and meet with everybody, we're not going to get anything from it. So it's kind of full circle there from that Nate wisdom.
it's funny. He's not even here and we're still talking about him.
I
Shout out,
know.
Nate.
Can't stay away. Shout out to
That's
Nate.
a great quote. The idea of prioritizing. I mean, but how hard is that, right? We want to do a million things, and so drawing the line to say, okay, this is a project for this quarter. This probably needs to go into next quarter,
Mm-hmm.
and start. You can't do everything. You're going to do everything poorly, right? So,
Exactly.
how do you prioritize? Because you're in startup land. How do you
We are.
balance that?
You know what? It's I need to continue to remind myself like each day, each week, what are the three things we need to get done
Mm.
immediately? It's having moved into startup land and we're growing quickly and we have awesome momentum, but it was a shift in mindset of, you don't just come in every day and have your job waiting for you. You check off the list and you move on. I think in startup land, you need to be thinking more outside the box. What can we proactively do? And how do we focus on the right things? Because there is a list of 100 marketing things we could do today. Um,
Right, for sure.
we kind of have like our monthly things that we're focused on, whether it's, hey,
Okay.
let's refresh the website and get some demo videos up and running. Let's get our customer stories kind of rolling because that's super important. So for me, it's all about like having those kind of things that month that I want to make sure we accomplish by the end of the month. And then you break it down into that week. And of course, it's fluid. Something new comes up every day. And then we kind of touch base as a marketing team and say,
Sure.
okay, where do we want to pivot? Where do we want to shift? And then there's some things we have to say no to. You
Hmm.
can't do everything because you don't necessarily have the manpower to do everything and do it well. So it's all about that prioritization, and figuring out what's the best use of our dollars, what's the best use of our resources, what's going to make the biggest impact with our target customer and our target kind of channel in the Salesforce ecosystem.
Right. Yeah.
And there are things we're learning along the way. Luckily, a lot of our team comes from Salesforce. We worked at
Sure.
Salesforce together. We worked at another ISV together. Now we're at Qualified, which is in the Salesforce ecosystem. So we have some good learnings of like what's impactful. But it's a fun ride, I would say. It keeps us on our toes because there's always something keeping us busy.
Yeah.
But it's
Man.
exciting. It's a fun career thing to be part of too, to help build out our strategy and really like crystallize those priorities that we want to focus on month over month.
Absolutely. And but having to pick some, right? And
Mhm.
say no or not yet to the rest. Whether it's like you said, the 3 things today and the 3 things this week.
Yep.
It makes such a difference to be able to just say, what are my priorities this week?
Yep.
And you
I'm a
can't have
big
20 of them.
a big list maker.
Yeah. Oh, are you?
See my notebook. It has a lot of open check
Do you
boxes.
do the checkbox things that you, yeah.
It gives me great satisfaction when I check them off. It's I've always operated that way, but it's funny how that works.
I hadn't thought about that. Kind of a little mini celebration every time you
Oh
check
yeah,
something off.
little pat on the back.
True. True.
Yes.
Little mini pats, and you have a whole page full of pats.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's something you were talking about earlier, really around what the conversational marketing does and the idea of the personalized and contextual conversations
Mhm.
and personalizing and this kind of makes me think about the words we use. And I think another thing Nate said was like words are important, and I know it's something that, and we chatted about it briefly beforehand, just the idea of, you know, how do you use the language of your buyer and not get too complicated? What's your take on all of that?
It's a great question. Um, it drives me crazy when tech companies specifically when it's confusing. When I look at their booth graphic, or when I look at their, hero sentence on their website,
Yeah.
if I can't figure out what they do in 2 seconds, that's a miss. And if my mom can't figure out what they do, like how do we talk to buyers who aren't just kind of who we're used to talking to? So I
Right.
think over the last, couple years, and you've talked about these buzzwords and these trends, but I think like positioning has gotten a little muddied. And I think sometimes companies strive to come across as like really sophisticated and um, really just I don't know what the right word is, but they try and seem really sophisticated, so they try and do really sophisticated or complex messaging, and it drives me crazy. And I think that's why we named our company Qualified, right? Like, what do you do? We help you qualify people. We help you talk to them. And so whenever I'm working on messaging, I think of how can we say this in the most straightforward way? How can we say it in the fewest words as possible? And
Right.
let's have some plain English talk right here. We don't need to get too complicated, and I think that
Sure.
resonates well with people. And there's some brands who do this really really well, and that was always something I thought about a lot working for Salesforce. Right, Salesforce did a pretty good job of this, but their product is complex, and they have a ton of different products with a ton of different positioning. And how can we distill down what the product does, the value it brings, who it's for, and make that really clear and digestible for anybody who's on your site, who's at your event, who's listening to your webinar, whatever it may be. So that's something that I'm always trying to push myself to do. It's always interesting doing demo video scripts, right? Because you
Yeah.
have to think so much about how can we get this down into less than 90 seconds, less than 60 seconds? How can we say fewer words and make it crystal clear what we do?
Right.
And I kind of have a background doing videos. I was on the video team at Salesforce for a while. And so I would think about that all the time. And then I go to some events or websites and I see these headlines where I'm like, I see AI, I see ABM, I see analytics, I see all of this stuff. But I'm like, but what do you do? Just tell
Right.
me. Like, if you have to tell your mom, if you have to tell, a cousin, a friend, whatever it may be, in 10 words or less, what is it? Um, and so I see a lot of different stuff out there, but that's something that I am super passionate about. Is like
Right.
let's simplify. Let's not complexify. Um, and yeah, that's something that I care about.
Yeah, for sure. The idea of like if telling your mom about it. Yeah, I actually thought about my grandmother. I remember being in the back seat. My parents are driving. We're older now. My brother's on the other side, and Bushi's in the middle. And so she's like, yeah, really old. She's forgetting what we do. So she's asking us in the car. She's like, Casey, what do you do? And so I'm like, oh, dang, I
What do
gotta.
I say?
What do I say? What do I say? So, and even like marketing. I mean, She worked at J.C. Penney's. She's like government, like a lot of experience, but like, we do like, so I think I simplified like computers,
Mhm.
and I was like marketing, but computers, and we don't really do ads, but I was like, the advertising and the computers and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
What?
she's like, that's nice. It's very nice, very nice. And she asked my brother, okay, and his name is Kip. So, hey, Kip, what do you do? He's like, I'm a police officer. And she goes,
Oh yeah.
oh, you're right. She's like very impressed. And then sure enough, like, an hour, 2 hours later, we're driving in the car and she's like, Casey, what is it again that you do? And and I was like trying to say
Remember
the
the
name.
computers?
Yeah, the computers, and she's like, oh yeah, but Kip's a police officer. And I was like, oh, I lost that one.
Kip wins again.
He wins. He wins that one. But simple message, and you know exactly what it is. I think of how many times I've been at a world tour for Dreamforce, and you're right. You get like a little headline that can come right underneath your logo, and
Yep.
and they'll print it on the booth for you. And I like to walk by and just see what's what, see who's dropping coin on booths, and if
100%.
and I'm a pretty smart guy, but I don't always know what they're talking about. But is there, in some sense, is it I'm just not the target audience, so it shouldn't matter if I know what it is or not, or should they still try to simplify it?
I mean, but you have to be somewhat related to the target audience, right? If you're at a world tour and you guys do implementations and consulting, you're in the realm. So even if
Sure.
you're not the direct buyer, you should be able to recommend this brand and know that
Yeah,
they serve this need and they do this thing. Um,
that's a good
but
point. The whole idea of recommending.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's you also want to talk to influencers. You want to talk to people who can influence that buying decision. You're not always going to be in front of your technical end user.
Yeah, I just think about like, cloud-based ETL, CPC, a data lake, something, something. And you're like,
Super overwhelming. And then
what do
you
you
look at
guys do?
Dreamforce, that's
Yeah,
the world tour times 100. So it's always kind of a fun game we would play walking around the campus to say, okay, I get that. I don't get that. That's
right.
my marketing. That's a little unclear. And then how
Yeah.
do you take that to all of your properties, your emails you're sending? How do you do those short, clear, concise subject lines? Let's not get too wordy in our copy for things. How do you do lists and make it digestible? And how do you carry that across to your homepage framework and then the story you're telling in your videos and all of your marketing assets? How do you carry that same simple digestible message across everything? Because I think especially nowadays, like people want to have it told to them straight and they don't want to have to read a lot. People are going to skim this content. So let's not make them jump through hoops to kind of figure out who you are and what you do.
Oh, so true. Some great points in there. One is the idea of, you carrying all this stuff through to their homepage. And I just had this funny question. I wonder if you do trade shows the way I do, right? I don't necessarily want to engage with every single salesperson there. So I kind of do the quick, fast walk by. I'm trying to like look at the booth and the headline and see, is this intriguing? Should I know about this thing?
Yep.
Can I understand it? And if I can, maybe or what do they have for a giveaway? Otherwise, I'm like trying to get by without someone being like, hey, how
Yeah.
you doing? Because I'm not going to be rude and be like, I'm busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the headline or just having the language that people can understand, it
Totally.
draws them in
Yeah.
wherever they are.
Yeah. And people are looking for those keywords, right? So it's like, don't bury those. Say who you are and what you do.
Right, right. And you also said that people want to be told like in a straightforward way, just give me the thing. Don't need to gloss this or polish this. And I was actually just talking to Ethan Butte. I don't know if you know him. He's from Bomb Bomb. He's an
Oh,
evangelist.
yes. I saw, because we've toyed around with Bomb Bomb a little bit, and I saw he was one of your recent podcast guests. You guys are talking all about video.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
was saying that while we're all trying to make high production video, literally enterprises realized that the more high production it is, people start just going ad and they just reject it outright. So they're actually they're reducing the quality of the image. They're trying to they're trying to come back down on production while we're trying to go up. It's kind of
Interesting. It's like there's
hilarious.
a time and place for everything, right? Like
Right.
we're doing these kind of, just like with BombBomb, these kind of self-made account-based marketing videos. So we build out a landing page, and then we say, it's me waving, or one of our salespeople waving, saying, hey Casey, Maura here from the Qualified team. Like, we'd love to show you what Qualified can do for company X. And then we record me doing a demo, so they can see my face, they can see me doing the demo. And we even do an animated GIF on the landing page. So when people land on it, they can see that wave. And those are super low production quality, but they're personalized. They show people that, like, hey, we went out of our way and we want to talk to you, and this is a personalized demo. And then you obviously want the fancy stuff for a big event, keynote opening, or whatever it may be. But I think the pendulum has definitely swung. When I was on the video team at Salesforce, we wanted to do everything top of the line, highest production value, but that would keep us from scaling our program. Some people would come to us and say, like, I want to get this out the door quickly, and that's okay if it's lower production quality. So it's finding that balance, right? And what spend or what media makes the most sense for what you're trying to achieve.
Right. And either way, it seems like authenticity is like the thing. And I definitely, you exude authenticity. So it's like, and maybe that's why you're tied to the chat and all the other stuff. It's just like, hey, here's us,
Yeah.
Let's just talk.
Yeah.
Let's just have a conversation.
Human to human. It doesn't need to be business to buyer.
Totally. Well, my question is, who are you? Like,
how much time do you have?
I have hours. Here, come sit next to me and let's chat about your life.
Fly to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really broad question.
Take us back to like little more. When you were growing up, did you always know you're going to go into marketing, or what did you want to be when you wanted to grow up? Like, how did you eventually sort of land the way you are?
Yeah, I mean, when I was really young, I wanted to be a cash register, or somebody who works at a cash register, because I thought you got to keep all the money.
Keep all the money.
So dreams were shattered when I found out that wasn't the case. But no, I mean, I always had an inkling that I'd go into marketing. I was always in student council, grade school, middle school, high school, college. That was always something that I did. And so really enjoyed certain parts of that, kind of being in touch with the community, putting on events, leading some of my different groups that I was part of. And I also was like really into art growing up. So I did a lot of kind of art on the side. Cool. So I feel like that kind of, I was a bit more like design, brand, aesthetic minded in that sense. So those are kind of things I was involved with, but I never was like, oh, I'm definitely going to be in marketing. But it felt like that's where I was leaning. I went to Santa Clara, kind of right in the Silicon Valley, and was a comms major there, and got to see all the different sides of marketing, interpersonal comms, PR, brand marketing, whatever it may be.
That's cool.
And I was really lucky that I went to college right in Silicon Valley. So,
I never even thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, we were down the street from, Facebook kind of became a thing right when I was at the beginning of college, where you had to have EU.
Yeah. EU address.
Yeah, exactly. But, there were all of these really incredible companies that were kind of emerging as we were in college down there. And I worked at Salesforce as my first job out of college. I knew I wanted to go into marketing. I knew I wanted to work for a tech company, and for a company that had a cool trajectory ahead, had some good potential. When I joined Salesforce right out of college, I joined in a recruiting coordinator contractor position.
Yeah. Well, it's just like whatever you can get. This is a cool company. I gotta
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. It's all about your network. I had like a friend of my brother-in-law who worked at Salesforce and put in the good word. And it was small. I think it was about 3,000 people at that time. And I just was thinking, I want to work for a good tech company and I want to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And so I joined that kind of contract role. And I knew that like recruiting wasn't for me. I loved working for Salesforce. I mean, what a cool company. I
Mhm.
also had no perspective that the way that company is run and the way it was growing and the way they take care of their employees wasn't the norm. Like,
Right.
pretty incredible. But as my first job, I was like, oh, this is what working's like. You know, we go to
Right.
Dreamforce and see Red Hot Chili
All
Peppers.
companies are nice to us.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was really happy at the company, but I really wanted to get into marketing. I felt like that was where that made me tick. And at Salesforce, I got to go to these events and I got to see the way they were doing marketing. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. They
Yeah.
are the best of the best. And so I got an opportunity to interview to be the Salesforce CMO's executive assistant,
Wow.
probably like 8 months into being at Salesforce. And which I've told him, I was like a little wary about it because I was like, okay, on one hand, I can learn a lot about marketing. This is a foot in the door to the marketing organization. But on the other hand, I don't know if I want to be someone's assistant, to be straightforward.
Right. Like what's that like? What's that like? And is
Yeah,
the value there versus what I'm doing and all
totally. And
that?
not to
Yeah.
undermine the role, it's an incredibly hard role. I have so much respect for people who do it because you are working around the clock and you're trying to make someone's life easier. And so I was a little hesitant about it. And I remember talking to my dad about it, and he said, like, you know what, Maura, look at this as like a condensed MBA program. Look at this as an opportunity to
Right.
learn from the best. You are going to learn so much just like through osmosis, just by being,
Mhm.
next to the CMO at this growing company.
This is at Salesforce. Salesforce, like who was it too? Was
So it was one of the qualified founders, Craig
it was
Swinser. So,
Craig?
so it's full circle. So clearly, we got along because this is 10 years ago. So we're working in a different capacity together now. But
Right.
I always, I always say, like, I'm so glad I took that opportunity because that's built the network for where I am today. It's opened the doors for where I am today. Um, and I got to like see how the marketing operation was run there. And I got
Hmm.
to meet the leaders of the marketing organization, a lot of whom are still, a lot of those people are still there. I got to kind of see how they operate. And then I was in that role for maybe less than 2 years. And then I went on to work on customer stories and videos and kind of, have
Awesome.
my career grow at Salesforce. Um, and then I went to get feedback another ISV, and now I'm at Qualified, so I was at Salesforce for about 5 years, kind of get feedback and co for about 4 years, and now at
Right.
Qualified.
And get feedback to sort of interject real quick. Founded by Craig, who you were the assistant to for a bit,
Yeah.
and Sean, right? So
Yep.
did they kind of give you that call, or
Yeah.
how did
Exactly.
that go down?
Yeah, it was kind of good because Craig left the CMO role to found Get Feedback with Sean
Right.
and Gopal and Bing, who are awesome. And then I got to kind of forge my own path at Salesforce and do my own
Nice.
marketing role and like kind of build my own identity there as a marketer at
Yeah.
Salesforce.
I like
Um,
that.
so I did like the Salesforce Live, all the broadcasts that they did from events and from we built out a studio, and we'd have these thought
Wow.
leaders and marketing luminaries come into the studio, and it was really cool. And then, yeah, they gave me the call to come join Get Feedback, and it felt like a cool opportunity to be part of something smaller. And it was hard to leave Salesforce because that's
I bet.
but I knew I'd be in good hands underneath these leaders. And so I think it allowed me to wear a lot of hats too. At a smaller company, as like you kind of do it all.
Right.
And then they found it qualified, and same thing, came over here because once you work with a team who you really, I think there's a lot of trust, and everybody just jives really well, and the product is great. It kind of seemed like a cool opportunity. So it's funny that like taking that Salesforce job on a whim, or taking the leap to do the assistant role, like I'm so glad I did that because I learned so much without even knowing I was learning throughout the process. And I think I'm always curious where I'd be today had I not done that.
Yeah.
Um, so that was interesting. And one thing that was interesting was, like, I think even if you're in a lower role. Have you ever heard, I don't know if you listen to it, but it's called The Second Life. It's a podcast with female entrepreneurs.
No,
So you might not be the target audience for it, but
yeah, but what's it about?
it's about, they have all of these female entrepreneurs on and they talk about their story, CEOs, founders, and they're super inspiring as, you know, a woman in the workplace to hear.
Sure.
They talk about navigating being a woman in the workplace, how they took the leap to start their own companies, the challenges they went through. And I was listening to one with Molly what's her name? Molly McNearney, and she's a co-head writer of Jimmy Fallon, or Jimmy Kimmel, sorry, for Jimmy Kimmel's late night show. And she started as an assistant, and she was said, if you're going to get the coffee, get the best damn coffee you can get. Like, make sure it's hot, make sure it's fast, because people will take notice when you're doing a really good job at those smaller tasks, so that when you're given bigger tasks and bigger, you know, a bigger role, a bigger opportunity, they know you're going to work just as hard because you worked so hard when you were getting that cup of coffee. And I thought that was interesting advice, like, and that I would tell my younger self too, or, you know, friends who are graduating college, like, it's okay to start at the bottom and work really hard and show people you're a hard worker. And like, that's going to open a lot of doors. So I thought that felt relevant to
Yeah.
kind of
Wow.
my path.
Yeah, it's quite the story because I mean, for you, I'm so sure we're talking about startups. It's not your first rodeo.
Yeah.
You were part of the Get Feedback team, which
Yeah.
by the way is one of my favorite apps, and that's
Yes.
how we even got connected because
Yeah. You're
I
a
just
Get Feedback
love
fanboy. I
Get
love it.
Feedback, and I would
Yeah.
be at the world tour and Get Feedback, be talking to someone. I'd walk by, be like, I have this, and you need to get it too.
Yeah.
Here's how I use it, and then I'd walk away, and the sales rep was like, thanks, and the
No,
customer's
I
like,
think
okay.
I told you when I first connected with you, when I came to Qualified, I was like, that guy looks familiar. And then we connected that you've probably been at a Get Feedback booth just
Totally.
fanboying when I've probably been working it, which is awesome.
And like, give me some socks. By the way, you need to get
Yes.
this thing. People, get this thing.
Yes. We just got some Qualified socks too. So we'll have to
Ah.
send you some.
What do they have to have cues on them or what do they do? They have little
They have
chat.
the little Qualified fireball, which shows that somebody hot is on your website.
Oh,
So,
sick.
and then they have the Qualified logo on the kind of the heel of the foot. So we'll have to send you some.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love that. I love those kind of dress socks. I've looked too, I thought about getting Cheshire socks and just putting my face on them,
Oh, definitely don't do that. I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'll take your advice. I won't do that. But I could see Craig and Sean's faces just kind of bouncing around these
Yeah,
socks. Like
definitely. I'll
uh,
take it into
little
consideration.
amoebas on the ankles.
Right.
Well, no, and that's fantastic. You kind of already alluded to this. Like when you're thinking about giving advice to yourself, like you are the VP of marketing at a fastly going startup that has tech that just I'm a huge fan of. Like that's an amazing story, and the fact that very humble, hardworking beginnings, just being like, I need to be in this place. This is the right place to be, and
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know whose quote it might have been. Sheryl Sandberg, maybe, just the idea of if you're going to, I'm going to misquote like terribly, but it's idea of if you're going to,
Yeah.
if someone invites you on a rocket ship, like just doesn't matter what seat you're on, just kind of get in,
Yeah.
get on there and just, fly away.
Yeah. Be along for the ride.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It
also,
sounds like you've done that.
surround yourself with people who you can learn from. Like, you actually don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Surround yourself where you're like learning and people who are challenging you, and like, because if you're not learning, that's boring.
Yeah. It's lame. If you're not learning, you're probably forgetting things.
Yes,
So
exactly.
keep learning. What kind of, I mean, you kind of hinted at this too. Think about advice you would give yourself.
Mhm.
Certainly around what Molly was saying. What would you advise yourself if you were like talking to yourself right at the beginning when maybe you were doing the recruiting gig, or maybe right at that decision where you're like, should I take that assistant role or not?
Yeah.
And you just chatted with your dad, and then you came back from the future and you're talking to yourself like what will the conversation go like?
I think a lot of it would be like kind of like what we were just talking about, but
Yeah.
surround yourself with people you can learn from. I also think something that I learned was you don't need to be the best at everything.
Interesting.
When I first was in my EA role, I was like, I want to go into events and I only want to do events and I don't want to do anything else. But I realized marketing has all of these different parts that need to work together. And I think the most successful marketing leaders know about each part of marketing. And that's what helps them lead successfully. So I had a former boss who said, like, that's great if you want to do that at one point, but like, don't say no to an opportunity to learn about demand gen, then learn about brand, then learn about campaigns, then learn about design, whatever it may be, because then you'll know about all these different elements of a successful marketing organization, and you can make, you can be informed and you can be thoughtful about what a marketing organization should do. And so I think looking back on like my earlier career, it would be absolutely do this because you're going to learn from the best. Soak up not just the one path that you think you want to go in, but take the opportunity to learn about every part of marketing, and then learn outside of marketing too. Marketing needs to work with sales. Marketing has budget and finances they need to do. So like, don't be closed-minded when it comes to where your career might go or what things you think you're interested in. It's more important to kind of absorb all of those elements, and then hopefully you can become a marketing leader who can thoughtfully speak to all of those parts of a successful marketing organization.
That makes a lot of sense.
And ask questions too.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to come across like, what everything is, and it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. I'll get back to you later. Or can you tell me more what that means? I'm not familiar with this certain phrase or this certain strategy. You're not expected to know everything when you're so early in your career or later in your career either. It's okay to admit that you don't know the answer, or that you have a question. And I think that's when you learn, right? When you have those conversations.
Yeah, and I think that the more confident you are, the more capable you are of just saying, I have no idea. Like, let's go find this thing out. Let's go investigate.
Totally.
It's amazing where you're at, what you're doing, because I know you also recently, and congratulations, are a mother. And
I am.
I mean, how do you balance these? Is that even possible?
Oh, I mean, it's a balance for sure. Yeah, I have a 1.5-year-old. He is on the move. His name's Jake. He is running around like a madman. But we, it's a balance being a full-time working mom for sure. My husband's awesome and super supportive. So outside of work, I'm just chasing him around, trying to make sure he doesn't hurt himself. So that's a lot of like our social lives these days, but it's been super fun. And I found like a really big part of figuring out that balance is talking with other working moms. I have a lot of friends who work full time. They have babies at home. They're trying to find that balance. How do I be a good employee, a good mom? How do I make it work? There aren't enough hours in the day. And for me, just like leaning on those friends and figuring out, how are you surviving? What's your week like? What's your day like?
Right.
But it also helps give me that I like having my own identity. And I like having this network of people who I work with, and I'm learning every day. And I think it sets a good example. For Jake, my mom worked full time with us growing up, and I have such respect for her. But it definitely keeps me on my toes, and there's not a lot of downtime in my life right now.
Yeah, I'll say.
The craziness.
Even if you weren't working at a startup, 1.5 is like zero downtime anyways.
It is busy. I'm not gonna lie. When he goes down to sleep at night, I'm like, whoo, okay.
Yeah. Do you ever get to that point where if he is sleeping, you're like, nobody wake the baby? If you have like in-laws or parents coming over, it's like, no, you can't take a shower. He's already in bed. You can take one in the morning. Like,
yes, 100%.
Happens. No noise.
Luckily, he sleeps pretty good now, but
good.
That's where a lot of that, like our floor would creak if you walked the wrong way, and I'd like pause in the hallway to make sure, like, who did that?
Right.
Pretty fun. It's been a fun adventure for sure. It gives a different gives you a different perspective on things. You know how it is. You have a 6 and 8 year old?
6 and 8. Yeah. I think you get
chapter.
So much meaning from that,
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, or just that deepens the experience.
100%. Yeah. It's been really cool.
Either that or I'm just exhausted and everything.
and that.
Yeah. But though at 6 and 8, I can't claim anything over 1.5. So it gets better. The older they get, they take care of themselves at some point.
Yes, I know. I can only imagine one day. My sister sent me a video of her kids taking in the garbage cans the other day, and she's like, "This is
what?"
Awesome.
Yeah, mine are starting to clear the table after dinner, so we're like, okay.
Oh yeah, you're doing something right.
Actually, doing the dishes will be coming up soon, as soon as you can reach the sink.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's fun.
Well, this has been fun. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Fun. It was fun being on the flip side of a conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
And no script, nothing to, just kind of rolling with it. Just kind of seeing where yeah.
Yeah, this is my first podcast interview, so hopefully it doesn't disappoint.
First of many.
Yes, of course.
Well, you know what'll happen once you're on this one, you end up on all the other ones.
Right? I know. We have our Craig and Sean, our founders. They did the Pardot Marketing Trends one.
The circuit.
Sean did the Mission Daily.
Yep.
Kind of the mission.org, their Mission Daily one too. So we're big fans of podcasting over here. So you're a great host. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you. Where can people connect with you? What are some links, Twitters, the socials, all that?
Yeah, on Twitter, I think, yes, I'm Maura M. Rivera on Twitter, Maura Rivera on LinkedIn. And then if you guys want to learn more about us, I know this is a Pardot, Pardot fan group over here. Go to
just a little
.com/Pardot, and you can see our solution.
What is it again? What's the URL? I kind of interrupted you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Qualified.com/Pardot.
Okay.
And hey, we'll be standing by to talk with you right on the website. So if you have questions, we'll be there.
So people should literally go on there and hit the chat button and be like, hey, great job on the podcast. Especially if you learned something from Maura today, go do that and be like, hey, Maura's the best.
I love it.
Inundate their chat.
We'll be on standby.
That's right. Yeah, all humans, no bots.
Amen. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for everyone else out there, if you've learned something, share this with someone. Be a thought leader to just one person. Just share this with one other person. I know you learned something because I literally have 2 pages of notes front and back, and I've learned something, a lot of some things. So share this with someone else. Share the link or a clip on YouTube or whatever you want to do, but make sure you get some of this information out there, especially for someone you think their career could benefit from just hearing Maura's story. It's so fantastic, and just that working hard and getting there. And now you see where she's at. It's fantastic. So
awesome.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You are the best. And for everyone out there, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.